You're about to watch what we call an extended clip of the Young Turks, and the reality is it's somewhere in the middle. It's a little longer than our YouTube clips, but it's actually shorter than the whole 2-hour show, which you can get if you're a member. You can get it ad-free, and make sure you catch every news story we do that day. You're gonna love it as a full show. That's at tytnetwork.com/join. Thanks for watching. All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Momentous day. Later today, we will be launching a new show called Rebel Headquarters. That'll be immediately following the live broadcast that you're watching here. So, of course, presumably either you're watching live or later when you're a member, so you know this, but 6 to 8 o'clock Eastern is when we do the Young Turks. This new show, Rebel Headquarters, is gonna start at 8:05, so quick break and then it starts, and it will be a hub for all progressives in the country. We'll be talking to a lot of different candidates throughout the country that are progressives, and talking about progressive causes as well and organizations. Today we lead off with a very fitting story, as luck would have it, on the DNC Unity and Reform Commission. So that is going to be the lead story on Rebel Headquarters tonight at 8:05. Obviously, before then, we got a full 2-hour show for you guys. There's actually even one encouraging story in today's show. It's about bullying, but about how celebrities and other folks across the country have stepped up for this little kid in Tennessee. That's a bit of a heartwarming story after we break your heart in the rest of the show. Anyway, that's going to be in the second hour with Anna, and then later in this hour, Donald Trump's latest mad ramblings, including his habit of apparently watching television for 8 hours a day. Not like he's got anything better to do. That story is amazing, and then the blowback from it is amazing, and the list goes on and on. So, but we do have some serious news to start with, so let's go over here. Yet another attempted terrorist attack in New York, this time by a 27-year-old man. He is remarkably not killed, even though he tried to blow himself up. He had a suicide vest on, it appears, but because he is a buffoon and an incompetent, thank God, not surprising that a would-be terrorist would be an idiot. He did not succeed in blowing himself up or others around him. His name is Akayed Ullah. He apparently is from Bangladesh originally, although it's not clear if he was born here in America or not. That is where his family descends from. So now we have a video of the event, believe it or not. It's obviously gonna be a little bit grainy here. You're gonna see a finger pointing at the guy who's about to blow up, and he does, except like I said, the bomb didn't really quite work, so you'll see a lot of smoke, but even the perpetrator doesn't die afterwards. Let's watch.
No, he never took his hands out of the pocket.
So he did survive, and there was 3 other people who were injured. They also all survived. Thank God the 3 other people did not have serious injuries. So let me read you a tweet from the New York Police Department as they responded, and as you see the pictures, they showed up in full force. This was at 7:20 a.m. It was underground under Port Authority, which is exactly in the middle of rush hour in New York City, and could have done a lot of damage if this bomb had actually exploded. Obviously, they had to take all the people who were commuting and direct them to other places so that they could find a way to get into New York City. And Port Authority was cleared out, a scene that New York hasn't seen in quite some time. So the New York Police Department put out a tweet saying the NYPD is responding to reports of an explosion of unknown origin at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue. The AC and E line are being evacuated at this time. Info is preliminary, more when available. That was early on. They did obviously get the situation under control. Great job by the authorities here. And then now a description from the Associated Press of what happened. The improvised device was only partially detonated, officials said, characterizing the incident as an attempted terror attack. And then the AP went on to say, an anonymous law enforcement officials told the Associated Press that Ullah was inspired by the Islamic State group, but had apparently not had any direct contact with the group. The officials said he lives in Brooklyn and may be of Bangladeshi descent, as I told you a little earlier. So there's a lot of guys like this who don't actually coordinate with ISIS or even have any direct link to them at all. But for whatever reason, they feel like they have to act, and then they say, "Oh, I'm inspired by ISIS." So that seems to be the case here. What's weird is that I thought that all this was going to end when Donald Trump was elected. That's what he told me. It's been almost 11 months since he's been in office. This is the second terrorist attack, at least in New York alone, since Trump's been in office. I thought my head was going to start spinning because how much winning we were going to do and how he was going to. Remember, he had the secret plan to attack ISIS. So if you grant that this guy is from ISIS, whatever that means, well, why didn't Donald Trump employ his secret plan yet? What is he waiting for? Is he going to wait for his term to be over before he employs his secret plan? There's some chance there was no secret plan. That Donald Trump is a moron and never had any new ideas on how to fight terrorism. And in fact, fighting terrorism is, as Trump would say, very complicated. Nobody knew it was this complicated. We knew. It's easy to say, oh, the Muslims or this or that, and look at issues in a black and white way. And then what are you going to do about it? So, and how do you combat it? So you can profile Muslims all day long. You could do your Muslim travel ban. You could do demagoguery around that. The question is, how are you going to actually stop the bombings? See, that one's a little harder because you actually have to use your head. And you have to actually, yes, use police work to try to find out who's going to do it and to prevent them. But Donald Trump doesn't have that kind of competence. He doesn't have that kind of intelligence. He probably legitimately thought this because he is that stupid, that he would just get into office and go, it's a radical Islamic terror, and so that's it, I'm sure it's solved. Well, it turns out, knucklehead, it's not solved. That's not how it works. You actually have to do the hard work of figuring out who is going to do it. And yes, there has unfortunately been a lot of terrorist attacks, mass shootings, carnages, massacres since Trump has been elected. Rule of law, that's what he said he was going to bring. It's now a sad joke. Not only do we not have safety, he continues to break the law every other day. Look, I'm frustrated because my friends and family are in New York. How many terrorist attacks do they have to go through? And so I want them safe. Just saying, oh, that group of people are particularly bad and we need to attack them isn't helping the issue. So serial killers are, unfortunately, statistically, generally white men, okay? Not all of them, but an overwhelming majority. How does that help me stop a serial killer? What should I do, profile all white men? That's such a stupid way of looking at it. No, you have to try to actually do the work to figure out who the people are going to be so you can stop them. Our families and friends' lives are on the line here. You're supposed to be the president of the United States and do the hard work it takes to keep us safe. And he hasn't done any of that. And of course, his promises were complete and utter nonsense. So we're all united in our disgust of the terrorists and their actions. That is universal. No one doubts that. The right wing, the left wing, the middle wing, it doesn't matter. Nobody wants to see terrorists blow up our family and friends. The question is, how are we going to fight them? Unfortunately, Donald Trump lied about having a secret strategy, obviously doesn't have one, and hasn't stopped terrorism at all. Okay. Now, let's go to another story about terrorism. Okay, so this is amazing. So there was a story out right before the election about how 3 white supremacists were going to do a bombing in Wichita, a terrorist bombing. In fact, the FBI charged them with wanting to explode a weapon of mass destruction. Now, some of you might have seen this story if you were watching the Young Turks or reading outlets that care to have real coverage. Most of you probably haven't seen this because the 3 terrorists involved were white. So we don't, generally panic about that on cable news. And so you might, and certainly the president doesn't talk about it. No politicians generally talk about it. So it just gets buried, right? Well, there's an update to that story today, and it is an interesting one. So if you don't remember the story, they were going to bring in trucks filled with explosives and put them around an apartment building with Somali immigrants, and that was because they're Muslim and they were going to show them, that they can't push us around. So they were going to do terrorism against the Muslims. But those particular Muslims hadn't done anything. But this is how the small-minded people in America and across the world think. Oh, me no do nuance. Muslim bad. Should I find out who the actual terrorist is? No. Muslim bad. Must do something about Muslim. So these guys thought, well, I got a great idea. Muslims must be bad. And why are they bad? Because of terrorism. Okay, so their ironic idea was, let's do terrorism against them. Let's blow them up. In the middle of Kansas, not in Somalia, in the middle of Kansas. So they were caught, thank God, and the FBI did wonderful work there. And there's an update to that story today. So let me go to the Associated Press for that. Gavin Wright, Patrick Stein, and Curtis Allen are charged with conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction and conspiracy against civil rights for allegedly planning to detonate truck bombs in the meatpacking town of Garden City the day after November 2016 election. Wright also faces a charge of lying to the FBI. Now, these geniuses thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win and that Donald Trump was going to be robbed. Oh, that's another conspiracy theory on the right. That didn't turn out to be true. Where are the FEMA camps? Where are the FEMA camps? There are no FEMA camps either. There was all these lunatic right-wing conspiracy theories, and it unfortunately led people to doing some terrible things. So they thought, okay, we'll show Hillary Clinton when she wins. We'll blow up these Muslims, murder them all, and then, as one of the conspirators said, we'll get their attention with, quote, a bloodbath. Okay? Well, they're asking for something unique today as their trial is about to get started. 3 men accused of plotting to bomb a mosque and an apartment complex housing Somali refugees asked a federal judge Friday to include prospective jurors from rural western Kansas because they are twice as likely to have voted for President Donald Trump. Now, wait a minute. I thought Donald Trump was against terrorism. But it is the belief of these 3 terrorists that Donald Trump voters don't mind terrorism if it's white terrorism against Muslims. Now, to be fair to the Donald Trump voters in Kansas, we don't know that that's true. That's what these 3 terrorists are hoping for. So, but it is an interesting story that we actually do have terrorists in America, and that Donald Trump has not tweeted about them, has not gone on a rampage about them, has not made national headlines about them. It's not that big a deal to them. And now those guys think, well, Trump voters are more likely to excuse terrorism. That's their belief. That's what they're arguing for. Please give me jurors that voted for Donald Trump because I think they're more likely to be okay with terrorism. As long as it is white people, right-wing people doing the terrorism against innocent Muslims. They think, and I don't know, they might have some basis for this belief, that Trump voters are going to think, not so bad, not guilty. That's what they're hoping for. They also argue the case will require jurors to weigh whether the alleged conduct constitutes a crime or whether it is constitutionally protected speech and assembly and the right to bear arms. Who knows? Maybe if they get those Trump voters, they'll think, well, I mean, yeah, I got a right to bear trucks full of explosives. Now, that's what we're stretching the Second Amendment to now? Trucks full of explosives. Do Muslims have that right here in America? Do black people have that right here in America? I'd hope not. But now the right wing is saying, I get to walk around with explosives ready to blow up innocent civilians, and that's my right to bear arms. Look, I don't think these are going to work, okay? But you never know. I mean, we've had a lot of insane acquittals in this country, just as long as the people on that jury felt like they identified with the defendant. And constitutionally protected speech. Yeah, your speech ends at the end of a bomb, okay? I know the right wing likes to say, free speech, I'm allowed to hate everybody. I'm allowed to hate blacks, Muslims, Latinos, gays. I'm allowed to hate them. I know you are, and I defend that right of yours oftentimes. You don't have a right to bomb them or murder them. That is a different thing, and oftentimes, unfortunately, they don't understand that. These guys are going to go on trial soon. I hope that the judge will reject their demands for hateful people that they think might excuse terrorism. They should just get a jury of their peers wherever they are and be done with that. They don't get to, in my opinion, pick a jury of their peers if they think there's enough right-wing lunatics in Kansas who are going to say that it's okay to murder innocent Muslims in the middle of Kansas. They should not be allowed to do that, and I hope that they face the justice that they richly deserve, and whatever the consequence of that in Kansas might be.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, "You must unlearn what you have learned." And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
It's amazing the different reactions both politicians and the media give to different stories. I know, I've said it a million times, and you know it too, even if you're the most right-wing guy, you know it in your heart, you know it in your whatever little there is of your brain. If 3 Muslim guys went and packed up explosives in trucks and put them around a building and said, we can't wait to create a bloodbath of these Christians, these white Christians in America. You don't think that would have been on the news 24/7, that you would have heard about it nonstop, and then people would have used it to say, oh, that's it, the Muslims are coming and they ought to be banned and they're dangerous and they're inherently and uniquely dangerous because of their beliefs. You would have heard it nonstop, which would have helped the demagoguery against one particular ethnic group. But when it's white right-wingers, kids gloves, barely talk about it. Okay, yes, these monsters, these terrorists do live among us. And luckily this time they were caught. And like I said, I hope they are brought to as much justice as humanly possible. Young Turks. Thanks for listening to this podcast. You're only halfway through, so hold, stay right here. Just want to remind you, if you want to get all 5 segments of the Young Turks commercial free, these are just 2 of them. Every day we do it. So go to tytnetwork.com/join and you get the whole 5 segments, 2 hours, ad free. Do it now. All right, back on the Young Turks. Our members of the day are Reed Capelli and Julia Lohr. Today in the post game, which we'll have after Rebel headquarters, I'm going to do two things. One is a story about Janine Pirro that we didn't get to today. And it gets to an unfortunate fact, which we're going to talk about a little bit in the next story. So an extra story for you guys. Plus, I want to talk about something uplifting, which is the movie Coco. I saw it over the weekend with my family. Oh, it's just wonderful.
Really?
Yeah, wonderful. And then I want to tell you my different family members' reactions because it's hilarious.
Okay.
So tytnetwork.com/join to become a member and check out the post games and get the whole to our show and Rebel headquarters now. One tweet for you guys. Brendan Coates says, the worst part about the firefighter convicts, if they are felons, they can't be hired as regular firefighters when they get out.
Best point that I forgot to make. Thank you. Yeah, that's true.
Yes, so the great irony and injustice of that. All right, what's next, Anna?
Okay. Over the weekend, the name Keaton Jones became a household name in the United States. A viral video was posted, a video was posted of him, which then went viral. And in that video, Keaton Jones, who is a middle schooler, was talking about his experience being bullied at his school in Knoxville, Tennessee. So here he is, he's just a sweet kid, and you watch the video and he's sobbing, he's crying, he's explaining to his mom what it's like to be bullied. Classmates, he told his mother, had poured milk on him and stuffed ham in his clothes. He was quoted as saying that they make fun of my nose, they call me ugly, they say I have no friends. Why do they bully? What's the point of it? Why do they find joy in taking innocent people and finding a way to be mean to them? People that are different don't need to be criticized about it. It's not their fault. And then at the very end of the video, he says, it'll get better, I guess. And then he just kind of like looks away. He's not even convinced of that. Like, it was just such a heartbreaking video to watch.
Yeah, look, man, as a parent, it's heartbreaking. You also just keep thinking, what could you do? What can you do, right? Because if I heard somebody doing that to my kids, my blood would boil. But you can't get into the middle of a 9-year-old fight, right? And it's so frustrating to have your kids going through that at school, for them to pour milk on them, and oh God, what is wrong with us as human beings, man? For kids, we do have to socialize folks. If we don't, they wind up, unfortunately, we got good instincts as human beings and collaborative in a lot of ways, but we've got some really nasty instincts as humans as well. And unfortunately, some part of our culture encourages that here in America.
Yeah.
It's not like that everywhere.
So there are twists and turns to this story that I will get to in just a second, but I wanted to jump in with my commentary so far on what I just talked about, because, and I really hope that he doesn't see this video, because it's what I'm about to say is probably discouraging. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. Like, this is, no, it doesn't though. This is, I thought it gets better, but it doesn't. We are a nation of bullies. And I'm not saying that every single person is terrible and they're pouring milk on each other. We just elected a bully. We elected someone who consistently on a daily basis does nothing other than bully people, right? Like, I think that says something about where we are as a country right now. And do I think we can get better? Absolutely. But think about how professional trolls are now running the government, okay? They're in the president's ear. That's the situation we're dealing with. So at the moment, it's very hard for me to pull a kid like this aside and be like, no, it gets better. Especially when on a daily basis you deal with rape threats, death threats, people doxing you, people talking about how they're gonna kill you. That's a daily thing, right? And so no, it doesn't get better.
Yeah, so Anna's definitely a little bit more pessimistic about it. I'm a little bit more optimistic about it. But the state of affairs, she's right about. I mean, right now we have unleashed bullies throughout the world, throughout the country, and this is by how fascism started, right? They started bullying the opposition into cowering, and then once they cowered, then they would take away more rights and more rights. And there are monsters out there right now that are going around trying to ruin people's lives and with lies, and they don't care, and they're encouraged by the bully in chief. That he got to be president by bullying everybody, by putting stupid nicknames on them, and didn't matter whether he was right or wrong. He would lie with impunity. He said, now Ted Cruz is a terrible guy, but Ted Cruz's dad did not kill JFK. That is insane. But Trump said that to smear him. Trump had his friends at the National Enquirer write a story about how Ted Cruz had 5 mistresses. He doesn't mind lying. He's a bully, and so he has encouraged every other bully in the country to go wild, and right now they are wilding. So my only hope is that I've seen in my life that, in my experience, sometimes things do get better. Look, it's easier for me to say I was a big kid, and I had a lot of fight in me. So when people try to bully me, I enjoyed fighting back. And I enjoyed standing up for the smaller kids who were getting bullied. I was happy to raise my hand and say, if you want to fight somebody, I'm your huckleberry, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and it worked. People stopped bullying. And sometimes it takes somebody to stand up, or a couple of different people to stand up, and maybe we encourage each other and stand up together. And I think that's what's going to happen nationwide too. But right now, we're knee deep in bullies. That is true. I see the way out. but it isn't an easy way. But this story also gives you hope because people stood up together.
People did definitely stand up for this kid, and it was heartwarming to say the least. So there were a number of celebrities who saw the video, and they wanted to, just offer their support. Delaney Walker, a tight end for the Tennessee Titans, offered Keaton and his family tickets to the team's New Year's Eve game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Other football players also did similar stuff. Chris Evans is another example. He's an actor, of course. He wrote to Keaton and said, don't let them make you turn cold. I promise it gets better. While those punks are at your school deciding what kind of people they want to be in this world, how would you and your mom like to come to the Avengers premiere in LA next year? So, all sorts of sweet offerings. And then there was an individual in New Jersey who started a crowdfunding effort to raise money. And they raised about $57,000. And then there had to be a halt to that fundraiser because people started investigating the kid's family, and they came across a post by his mother, Kimberly Jones, that, showed her, I guess, support, affinity, whatever you want to say, for the Confederate flag. Let's just take a quick look at graphic 74, and it'll just show you what people came across. And she also talks about butthurt Americans. If you aren't bleeding, no bones are sticking out, and you can't breathe, stop crying. For the love, some folks clearly never picked a switch. And before y'all start talking to me about metaphorical, emotional, financial, or historical blood and brokenness, don't join a group.
Okay, look, I don't care about her affinities.
Yeah.
And so if you want to have that influence, whether you give money to the family or not, I get it. That's totally 100% your prerogative, and I understand that. But let's not investigate the family, okay? Let's just look, the kid needs help. People offered help. Wonderful, okay? Put the money aside. So the football players wanted to help, the celebrities wanted to help. That's great. That's great. I don't care what his mom's political opinions are, and it's not his political opinions. He's just a kid. Mm-hmm. So stick with your original instinct of helping the kid who needs help. It does, and don't worry about anything else. And I don't want to do what the alt-right does. Well, now let's dive into what the family is and smear them and go after them. Just take the moment for what it is and do the right thing. And I'm glad at least that the kid got a lot of emotional support from people all across the country, including liberal Hollywood, okay, and white people and African Americans, and everybody as a country stood up for him. That's a great moment. Let's concentrate on that.
All right, moving on.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
Penny Young Nance is the head of an evangelical women's organization known as Concerned Women for America. And recently she appeared on NPR to discuss the Alabama Senate race involving Roy Moore. And her argument is that, yeah, maybe an accused child molester is a little better than electing a pro-choice Democrat. Don't believe me? Take a listen.
But here's Roy Moore. He's accused of having had inappropriate relations or even assaulting teenagers, including one who was as young as 14. He's effectively denied everything. Does that make him someone who's worthy of being in the Senate?
Well, I think that's a question for the people of Alabama. I mean, that's what they're going to decide tomorrow. Unfortunately, the Democrats could have won this handily if they'd been willing to put forward a pro-life Democrat. In the past, we had plenty of those, and slowly but surely they've been run out of the party. 2018 is going to be a very close election. The numbers in the Senate are 52-48. I counted about 9 races that would be competitive if they would be willing to support pro-life Democrats.
So she's pro-life so that the kids can be born and then molested by Roy Moore.
Yeah, I wish we could make you guys listen to the full interview because I would argue that it actually gets worse because she makes it clear that she wouldn't vote for Doug Jones because of the fact that Doug Jones is pro-choice. I don't understand the reasoning there. We're talking about living, breathing human beings who have been molested as kids, as teenagers, and for some reason their lives aren't as important as the lives of zygotes.
And besides which, look, I'll get to my favorite Bible quote because all of this is based on the mythology that God is against abortion and he believes that a zygote is the same exact thing as a human being. And that's just not true. It's not true in the Bible. The Bible talks about how God breathed life into Adam once he was born out of the womb, okay? Gave him breath. But besides that, Numbers 5:20-22. But if you have gone astray while married to your husband and you have made yourself impure by having sexual relations with a man other than your husband, here the priest is to put the woman under this curse. May the Lord cause you to become a curse among your people when he makes your womb miscarry and your abdomen swell. May this water that brings a curse enter your body so that your abdomen swells or your womb miscarries. There it is. The Bible is pro-abortion. If they think you cheated on your husband, they will give you a toxic potion that will cause a miscarriage, an abortion. I didn't say that. I think it's a terrible thing to do. But the Bible is in favor of that. Read the Bible. It's not what you consider pro-life. So this is not even pro-choice. It makes the woman drink poison to cause the abortion. But the Bible is definitively pro-abortion. It is. If you're uncomfortable with that fact, that's your problem, not my problem. Read your own Bible.
So Concerned Women for America in the past has been critical of things like same-sex marriage. They've been critical of equal rights for the gay community, for the LGBT community. But at least Penny Young Nance, I can't speak for everyone who's part of this organization, at least Penny Young Nance thinks it's better to vote for an accused child molester over a Democrat. Like, what are you concerned about? Like, your concerns are not worth being concerned about because the things you should be concerned about, you don't think are a big deal at all.
She believes child molestation is okay because the Bible tells her to be against abortion. When it doesn't even say that. And you're willing to deal with monsters based on that false assumption. It's sickening. Thanks for watching what I hope was a lovely edition of the Young Turks. Now, you know that is 2 of the 5 segments that we do because that's free. We want to have you support independent media and come watch the whole show that we do every day. That's 5 segments overall, no ads at all. That's at tytnetwork.com/join. Come become a member. Thanks for watching either way. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk, and I'll see you soon.